Welcome everybody. Welcome one more day and one of our community calls. The first one in spring if you are in the North Continent. If you are in Brazil like Thiago, then it's already fall. Really excited that everybody's joining. We have lots of updates for you today. Let's start with some data. Thiago?
Okay, I will just show some quick numbers and how you can see this in a simple dashboard I create just to show Celo. These numbers is more focused on the Celo updated. So we can see the active claimers on Celo, the holders and transactions, and the growth since last week on these three items. So you can see we are growing very fast. And here, a comparison between the two networks. Amount of good dollars distributed on Fuse, the good dollars distributed on Celo. So if you get your good dollars in both chains, you have twice the numbers, the active claimers in both networks, and also the total transactions in Celo and also in Fuse. The number of holders in each network. So this is the potential number of users we can transfer to Celo and claim on Celo. The supply updated, we have the number of good dollars in each network, and the holders in each network. And here a map of all the users who are already using Celo good dollar on the Celo blockchain. And to see these informations, I create a simple dashboard. Here in the mine dashboard, the address, you can go here and select Celo. And you will see these simple informations for now, the active claimers, holders, users around the world only in the Celo network, the countries, and who are using this, the gender, the age, and the devices. Important difference here is in the Good Swap, we have a lot of Apple users, and we don't see this in our Fuse network. This is because we have United States and users who are using the Good Swap to more complex stuffs in the Celo blockchain and the Good Swap. So this is the reason we have Apple here and we don't have Apple in the standard wallet like this one. Basically, is this what I want to show from the Celo and the place where you can find these informations. Just go here, select Celo, just simple information for now to improve this. And that's it for the numbers this week.
Thanks, Thiago. Talking about Celo, we have Angelo from the Celo Foundation today with us. Angelo, wanna go ahead and introduce yourself to the community, please?
Thank you, Mary. And the numbers are really, really exciting. It's so nice to see it live with such tremendous progress and growth. Hi, everybody. Hi, GoodDollar community. My name is Angelo. I am representing the Celo Foundation. Consider me as like the steward of GoodDollar as it launched on Celo. At Celo Foundation, I lead a collective named the Social Impact Collective. Our mission or our objective is to leverage Web3 for real-world use cases and social impact. That's why UPI as a use case, which is what GoodDollar is doing, is something that's really up my alley. And I'm very happy to see GoodDollar live on the blockchain. We're very excited to have you, to welcome you in the community, as well as see the potential of how this use case will still grow and impact many lives across the world. At Celo as well, I take care or work with other builders, which we're very excited to connect with GoodDollar, other use cases such as savings, credit, identities, those that I think will increase the utility also of GoodDollar as a token and also as a project. So looking forward to collaborating with you. Working with the GoodDollar team has been a very positive and meaningful experience for me. And thank you for this opportunity to be here today.
Thanks, Angelo. Anna, do you want to announce the first research from the Cello Foundation?
Yeah, sure. So we also shared this. I mean, I think a few updates that that I want to make sure that everyone on this call is aware of, which is that several weeks ago, we shared the terms of the Cello Foundation grant, and I've actually updated that on the original discourse proposal. I think, Mary, it was a GIP 13 that we did around the Cello. Turn my camera on. That we did around the Cello proposal to the DAO, and so there were a number of questions around like, what is the deal? What are the obligations? What are terms of the grant? And so if you look on the governance proposal, you'll see that the terms of the Cello Foundation is a $400,000 purchase of GoodDollars that is tied to us meeting specific monthly active user numbers. The goal essentially, and so just to make sure everyone on the team understands that this is funding that is going to go directly into the reserve, and use of those funds is actually to seed GoodDollar activity on Cello. And a lot of those funds are going to be used for community grants and incentive to enable the community and other DApp builders and partners to actually integrate GoodDollar on Cello and launch all of their dApps to our members and our users. And so that's one of the areas that we've been working really closely with Angelo, is that he has a great understanding of all of the different dApps and application providers on Cello, whether it's microcredit or payment rails or NFT platforms or other wallets that are oriented towards like a mobile Android experience. And so we've been, working to understand how are we going to integrate GoodDollar into all of those dApps. We're working to make sure that all of those dApps have funding to basically launch GoodDollar into the market. And then another huge chunk of that money is actually meant to seed community grants. And so actually to go back to the community for people who are ambassadors, who are looking to set up and host local meetups or establish GoodDollar chapters or host some sort of education campaigns. And so we'll talk more about that today. And so Cello and Angelo have been really critical in not just facilitating the grant process, but also working with us and working with other members of the community. I know Angelo's met a few members of the community already to understand what do our users want to do on Cello? What are their hopes and dreams for how they want to use GoodDollar, and making sure that we are doing the best we can to really facilitate that, whether it's in terms of applications and use cases for the GoodDollar community, or in terms of grants that enable you guys to better host GoodDollar events and host GoodDollar meetups and onboard local communities, and making sure that you guys have the funding and the support to do that, which we know has been, is a key part to making it happen, if you will. So I wanted to share an update that we met our first milestones. So our initial milestones were to deploy the GoodDollar token on Cello and launch Claim on Cello. And that was basically what released the first milestone of the grant, which was actually the Cello Foundation purchasing an initial $50,000 worth of GoodDollars this past week, which is what happened on, I believe, Monday. I think it happened on the 9th, on Monday evening.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome because, one of the things we're going to share more on next week's call, in 2 weeks' time, some proposed ideas for how we plan to activate those funds. But I'm going to review a deck today that will show that there's a real opportunity for community members to get involved in, not just get involved, we're expecting the community members to step up and help in how we plan to administer and distribute those grants and for what sorts of initiatives. So really, really, really exciting milestone. We also will be sharing more, as we've been reorganizing on the communication side, but in the next few weeks, we're going to be sharing more about like the specific clear terms of the grant. So what funding is linked to which KPIs. So I wrote about it in the governance forum, but we'll make sure it's more public, more visible, more everything for everyone. We'll be updating, basically some proposed plans for how to use these funds. Okay, so again, how do we want to use some of the initial funding on Cello in terms of liquidity and grants? And most important for you guys is that we're going to be recruiting. The Cello Foundation is going to be to recruit 3 different members from the community who are going to help actually sit on the committee with the Cello Foundation and influence who gets to apply for the grants, who approves the grants, etc. And so the theme of my section today is actually talking about the GoodDollar operations model and what falls into the how are we operating moving forward, and what does that mean for members of the community. And this is a really great opportunity for community members who have been eager to get more involved, to take a real leadership role in helping to input and oversee and really activate the expansion of the protocol on Cello. So that's like one update. And then Mary, I wanted to, we pull up the deck.
Yeah.
Great. So the other thing that
Tiago, Tiago, I need you to do it because since I'm recording, I cannot, so can you go on the agenda and share the deck, please? Thank you. Yeah, it's on when Nana is stuck. Yeah, there.
Okay, cool. So one of the things that you guys have heard us refer to for a while is that we've been, there's been some questions about, I guess, from the community, has been actually around what is GoodDollar? What are the entities that operate around GoodDollar? Where does, the core team stop and community members and other contributors begin? And we promised to share with you guys as we established, basically cleaned up and completed our transition to operating as a protocol. We promised that we would share with you guys an updated operating model. So that's exactly what I'm going to do today. If you can open it, please. You don't have access because you're signed in from your Gmail. That's okay. Hold on. Let me open it for you. You have access, just shared. Cool, beautiful, thank you. All right. So we've been talking about this for a long time. Really, it's since the year since I took over, is that one of the core things that we want to focus on in 2023 is actually what is the GoodDollar operating model and what are we doing to enable a DAO-empowered, community-driven GoodDollar. And so this is not one presentation. This is the start of many conversations that will hopefully give you guys the knowledge and the context to begin to understand some of the work we've done behind the scenes and how you can participate. So next slide, please. Let's skip. Okay, so what are we trying to achieve by this deck? I think the first thing is that we want to set a plan that enables community and GoodDAO members and community contributors to begin lead a chunk of the GoodDollar operations that are currently led and funded by the core team. So we will go through the conversation of like what is the core team and what does that mean, but that's the goal of what we're trying to achieve here. The second area is we want to clearly communicate to you guys what are the key functional areas for the GoodDAO where we see community contributors establishing and leading functions in 2023. And all of this is part of a larger initiative, which is actually creating and updating a GoodDAO manifesto, a roadmap, establishing an official treasury, and a decision-making scheme and resolution scheme for using those funds in a DAO model. So that's the goal of what we're trying to present, what we're working on and hope to share with you. Next slide, please. I think there are a few things that are important that we take into consideration, which is what is actually the role of the Good Labs Foundation in kickstarting and standing up the protocol, and how does that change over time? So one of the things that you'll see is timeline and the time frame upon which we actually hand over operational responsibility is a big consideration here. And what we've tried to focus on is what is feasible, reasonable, urgent, important for GoodDollar in the next year, and what are the areas that we really feel like we're set up for the community, like community members and part-time contributors to really begin to lead successfully, knowing that we can't decentralize everything at one time, and also the things that we're not worrying about in this, let's say in 2023. Next slide, please. So next slide. So GoodDollar, what is it, right? I think we want to start with the question of like, what is GoodDollar? Who is GoodDollar? What are the products? What are the services? I believe that will actually help us frame our conversation. And so from my perspective, and I think the rest of the team would agree with me here, GoodDollar is really a brand name that refers to all of the different components of the system, but GoodDollar is also the name of the protocol to sustainably create and distribute sustainable crypto UBI and GoodDollar asset. It's the protocol. It's the standard for free money as a public good. So the GoodDollar protocol, like GoodDollar refers to, I would say, first and foremost, the protocol itself. All of the different open source code and intellectual contributions that have been put into it, if you will, but also it's a brand name that we use to refer to all of the different supporting products, interfaces, communities, etc., that compose what GoodDollar is today, that are all built around the GoodDollar protocol. And I think it's really important that we understand that it's both the set of smart contracts and it's all of the different supporting activities, whether they're products or community initiatives that surround that protocol and promote the standard of crypto UBI as a public good in GoodDollar asset. Next slide, please. I think, I didn't really work on this slide, but this slide is actually meant to be an example to show that like GoodDollar, the team of GoodDollar is actually all of us, right? So it's the ecosystem, the contributors, etc. There are many, many, many different individuals around the world that are working to advance GoodDollar, and and not all of our operating ways of working on GoodDollar are exactly the same. Okay, and we need to understand and accept that there are multiple ways to contribute to the project. And the vast majority of ways that you can contribute to growing GoodDollar is actually not through working for GoodDollar full time. It's not through working for GoodDollar as part of the core team. It's actually in many ways the different contributions that all of you guys make around the world, if you will. And so someone like Noah, who I know has joined this call, he's working on GoodDollar, just in the same way that Bertrand is working on GoodDollar, in the same way that Hadar is working on GoodDollar. Different levels of expectations and time commitments and let's say, basically compensation models, but all of us are working on GoodDollar. I see all of us as a collective team that are part of this effort to promote the protocol and advance the standard and make GoodDollar useful UBI. This is a great reminder that we're looking to collect photos and photos of all of the contributors. We're building out some stuff on the website. And so please contact Progress and please contact Mary to get your photo, because we really want to acknowledge the contributions of all of the different people that have contributed to building out GoodDollar, whether it's as a full-time job or whether it's in a part-time capacity, or no matter what it is. We want everyone to be recognized for their hard work. Next slide, please. So there's been some conversation around like what is the core team, what is Good Labs, what is this foundation company that is actually an entity that is associated with GoodDollar versus the role of the DAO, if you will. So please, next slide. So the way we just reviewed that the GoodDollar protocol is a set of smart contracts that actually create the free money as a good. And the GoodDAO is the governance module that actually governs that protocol. And it's with the purpose of furthering its mission to sustainably create and distribute crypto UBI. Why is this important? Because the reason why why is the GoodDAO important? The GoodDAO is important because I see this as critical to the longevity in the usage of the GoodDollar protocol in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years, long after myself or Hadar or Yoni or anyone else. This is actually or any contributor. This is actually the rules of engagement, the rules of the game that will enable individuals and communities around the world to make GoodDollar a useful currency for themselves over the next 5, 10, 20 years, because that is what gives the power and the authority over the protocol smart contracts. Okay, so I think it's really important that we understand that this is, I see the GoodDAO is critical to what's actually going to make GoodDollar sustainable, long, above and beyond, let's say, the foundation company activities, which I'm going to get into in a minute. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what is the Good Labs Cayman Foundation Company? What does it do? Okay, and so the Good Labs Cayman Foundation Company that we've worked to open has a very, very, very specific mandate. Okay, the mandate of the company is to advance the education and adoption of the GoodDollar protocol and the general use of blockchain technology to improve its impact. And that is the mandate of the company. Our activities are facilitating the activities of the GoodDAO and the GoodDollar protocol community. And we do that through actually managing and handling a lot of the legal stuff that you need to in the real world on behalf of the DAO. And I'll give you guys an example. The logo and the trademark and the URL, okay, and the Google suite. These are all let's say, operating technologies that exist in the traditional business world and are now blockchain native. There is no way for a set of smart contracts, which is basically a protocol or a DAO, to, at this point in time, practically hold and own an IP, practically hold and keep a G Suite that's associated with a URL, maintain those things, etc. And so and this is the role of the Good Labs Foundation, or if you will, is actually to take on a lot of the business and operating challenges where you need a real company structure in order to facilitate the establishment and the setup of the protocol and the DAO, okay? But the critical point here is that the Cayman Labs Foundation Company is not equal to the GoodDollar protocol. And this is critical. So the foundation is actually not a legal wrapper for the DAO, nor are we responsible for the activities of operating the protocol. We are responsible for kickstarting the protocol. We're responsible for advancing the protocol. We're responsible for contributing to the protocol. And we do that in a range of different ways in terms of creating open source software, We do all the advocacy, community work. We also do, like legal stuff on behalf of the protocol and the DAO, right? But it's really important that you understand that those are done within the nature of we are providing services on behalf of setting up the GoodDollar protocol and the GoodDAO. And this foundation company is not one and the same. Okay. In fact, the GoodDollar protocol is equal to the governance mechanism. It's equal to the GoodDAO because this is what's happening on the blockchain and the smart contract level. And Good Labs is a company that's operating, that's designed to promote that, but it is not one in the same. Okay. And that's a really, really important distinction for us to understand in terms of the roles and the responsibilities and how we're thinking of dividing the work. Next slide, please. So the Good Labs versus the GoodDAO. So we'll share this afterwards, but how are we dividing the work and the responsibilities? What are the different elements of what are the core different elements of the Good Labs Foundation versus the GoodDAO, and how do we see them both being critical, both and others being critical to promoting the GoodDollar protocol, if you will. So first of all, let's go through what Good Labs does, because I think it'll be useful. So one of the roles that Good Labs has played is we've been the core developer for the GoodDollar protocol. That means that we've worked to, let's say, establish the initial smart contracts, and we've developed the initial interfaces that enable people to actually access those smart contracts. So the Good Wallet, the Good DApp, now we're working on a segmented UBI DApp. These are all interfaces that are, under the IP of of Good Labs, this foundation company, if you will. The other, we also provide, again, services on behalf of the DAO. So, for example, we're managing the legal, the finance, we're paying people, we're dealing with contracting. These are many services that we're providing on behalf of the DAO as well. We are leading a lot of the advocacy and promotion of the protocol and the documentation. We are also, and then there are other services for which we've actually been nominated by the DAO to contribute to the protocol. So for example, we have the Guardian proposal. We were nominated, it's our old entity was nominated as one of the initial Guardian, as the Guardian structure for, it's kind of like distracting. The Guardian structure. Sorry, can someone mute themselves? Really loud. I'm having a hard time.
It's only me, not mute, but I need to be on mute for the recording. But I'm not making any sound, so I don't know what's going on.
There's 2 or 3 other people who I don't think you're hearing. Foza Dolor.
Okay.
I see. Mute, but I hear him.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't know how to mute him. Okay. I'm just going to continue.
Yeah.
Sorry for the distraction. Sounds like someone's at a dinner party, seriously, and I'm talking over them. Okay, so, and I think most critical that there's 2 other critical functions that the Good Labs is performing now in its role of hoping to establish and set up the DAO. The first is that Good Labs is actually managing the whitelist. Right? So the green list of UBI recipients. So this is because Good Labs we use third-party face verification technology in order to, so distracting. We're using a third-party software called FaceTech to run face verification. That's who we have the license with. And that is a function core to the protocol that is currently maintained by the labs. It's not that I need headphones, it's that I have one who is muted. For some reason, he's coming through on my side. So Mary just showed Foza Dolor is muted, but for some reason I hear him screaming. The other really critical, important thing is that we are facilitating a range of different, Good Labs. If you want to do deals with other entities, for example, the Cello Foundation, you need to have a company structure to facilitate it, right? So even though we one day hope that there will be a world where DAOs and smart contracts and smart contract enabled social communities are able to negotiate and secure deals with other entities, that's not currently the case. Right? So you need to have an entity structure that can help us facilitate a lot of the activities that we want to do, such as receive grants. Right? So this is really important and an important function. On the other hand, we want to enable the GoodDAO. We're in a critical point of wanting to really begin to enable the GoodDAO and community contributors to take on more power and more ownership of setting up a DAO, the GoodDollar DAO, as being able to actually lead things, right? And that starts with the GoodDAO having money, okay? And so one of the first things, money to do things, money to pay people, money to decide things. And so one of the core things that we've worked on over the course of the past few months is that as we've created this Good Labs Foundation, we've actually set aside hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're donating on behalf, our old UK entity going to donate as assets to form the GoodDAO treasury. And so this is a really, really important and critical milestone in GoodDollar's life cycle, if you will, which is that in the past, we had an entity that was operating a lot of different elements of GoodDollar, and we've developed a range of different, we've developed crypto holdings, which I'll get into in a second. But we recognize that in order for the DAO to stand on its own, it needs its own assets, it needs its own budget, it needs to have some of its own funding so that it's not just directly related to Good Labs. So that's one area of our conversation we'll talk about today. We also really want to see the community members begin to lead across a few different areas of functionality or functional responsibilities that they're already doing. The first is I think community management, local marketing, right? So this is Progress's program and the different GoodDAO community moderator programs, and really enabling the GoodDAO to propose what are the communities we want to fund, nominate who they want to lead them, fund them end to end, and really run that where the community is leading the community functions. We also want to support people who want to get technical grants, right? And so we've started to add on DWork different areas of code and no code projects of people who want to build things on GoodDollar. We also want to make sure that there's a DAO group that's actively managing the treasury and the liquidity. I think another important note is the last slot point here is to find grants for the DAO. I think this is this is something we'll talk more and more about over the next few months, but that are opportunities for community members to actually help GoodDollar get more money, to help the GoodDollar protocol get more money. And I think a great example is actually the DAO Drops grant, which is something where Steve actually completed the application form on behalf of the DAO. And DAO Drops was it's basically a retroactive funding of public goods, for example. And so Steve, who's a community contributor, nominated the GoodDollar protocol to receive that. He's actually the person who helped us be nominated from that grant. And that is a grant that hopefully we'll receive some funding from it. And when we do, those funds will be used to go into this DAO treasury. So I think this is a great example of how other community members can also help us bring more funding to the DAO, and that'll also be a key part of the treasury responsibility. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the money for a second, because I think this is an area where we want to make sure that the community we're aligned on, we are very, very aligned on what's going on, if you will. So first and foremost it's important that you guys understand that Good Labs is a foundation company that is funded by corporate donations. And right now, the two corporate donors are eToro and Cello. Okay, this means that our foundation is the Good Labs operations are subject to the money that we receive from corporate donors. Some years they can give us more, some years they can give us less, and we have to be ready to adjust our own operations accordingly. Okay? But I will share with you transparently what we have for 2023, which is that it's actually still changing, but basically Good Labs is planning to operate with a budget of around $1 million this year. And of that, over half of that budget is being donated or is actually being used to set up key operations for the DAO. Okay, and we can go through this in a second, which is that first and foremost, operating the protocol has costs. Okay, so gas is subsidized in the GoodDollar protocol. Smart contract audits are required for every single functional upgrade. The Good Labs is actually paying those costs on behalf of the protocol to the tune of around $100,000 a year, just to operate the protocol, fund its ongoing costs, funding invite campaigns, funding the gas structure, funding smart contract monitoring, etc. Second component that many of you guys will be familiar is actually the advocacy and community. Right. So we know that there's budget that's allocated to the GoodDAO moderators. There's budget that goes to every single one of the working ambassadors every month. That is money that we are distributing to community members through the DAO. Okay. And we will continue to build that muscle, but it's important that we understand that that's money that's coming to Good Labs and it's being distributed through the community. Okay. Protocol development, so developing smart contracts and increasing the functionality, all of these elements that we're maintaining, it's to the tune of $300K a year. And I think really important is legal and compliance. So believe it or not, nonprofit DAOs are not something with a well-established legal structure. It's very, very challenging to identify what is the right structure for an operating model like ours. It takes costs, right? And so we have borne this presentation is a result of that work and that money, if you will, in terms of setting up the Cayman Foundation entity in such a way that it actually is set up to over time support the protocol and the DAO's activities. Okay. The other thing that I mentioned is that we are going to establish a treasury that belongs to the DAO. And I think this is really, really critical because this is the first moment that we're talking about the GoodDAO and the GoodDollar protocol having real assets under management, if you will. And so again, I think it's important that we recognize that this is also going to be a donation, if you will. So over the past few years, Dollar Limited, which is an old company that we used to run GoodDollar through, has acquired a range of different crypto assets. We've done that through a range of different activities. For example, operating a Fuse validator. We've also received a range of different donated crypto through our operations. And we are going to be essentially granting those funds to become the GoodDAO treasury so that the GoodDollar treasury GoodDollar protocol has real protocol owned liquidity and has its own real assets under management so it can begin to operate separate from the Good Labs Foundation and conduct some of its own activities. The other element of the treasury, so that's the asset perspective. The other element is that we know that we have money that's designed to go towards community grants and community builders for this year. And there are two sources that we have those funds from. The first is that we made the update. There was the update in V3 for protocol V3. We decided to allocate 10% of the UBI mint to go towards a community fund that has been collecting money ever since that proposal was passed in January. And it's projected that there will be, we project that by the end of this year or in a year's time, there will be 250 million GoodDollars. That's around 40,000 US dollars in that smart contract that are available for grants. Not going to wait until the year goes by. We're going to work to actually operationalize or help support setting up a grant committee that can actually begin to distribute that money to people in the community who want to build awesome things. Okay. The second source of the grant funding is actually coming from the Cello Community Fund. So as I mentioned, Cello is going to purchase 400,000 GoodDollars over the course of the year. At least 70,000 of those are allocated to go into community grants. And so this is funding for people in GoodDollars to host workshops, to initiate communities, to build cool stuff on top of GoodDollar, to run no-code projects. And so this is funding that is going to be separate from, the Good Labs activity. And we see ourselves as being, our role is actually to enable the community to begin to access and use those funds efficiently and effectively. Next slide, please. All right, as I mentioned, we're going to be formalizing the GoodDAO crypto assets as a GoodDAO treasury, and so we'll share this, but essentially, it's a collection of different crypto sources that we've acquired, crypto assets and sources we've acquired over the course of the past 4 years since we started the project, and we'll share more there. But this is a critical area for those of you guys who are interested in crypto asset management to get involved. We're going to be looking for people to actually manage this treasury, and it will be one of the first working groups associated with the DAO. Next slide, please. Initial working groups. Great. Thank you. So where are we starting? Where are we starting, and what are the initial functions that we actually that we really want to help support community members working through? So the first and foremost is, as I mentioned, the DAO treasury and managing it. So for the first time, GoodDollar is going to have its own treasury. It's going to have its own assets under management. We're going to be looking for individuals who are able to actually effectively manage and use those crypto funds to support the growth of the protocol. This means not just investment decisions, but also active liquidity management, as well as looking for opportunities for the GoodDAO treasury to earn more money. So that might be setting up validators, that might be other choices, but we're looking for a range of community members who are going to actually input and lead that function. The second function is actually around protocol research and settings. And so this refers to the monetary policy for the DAO, and making key decisions around things like how much UBI is distributed on what chain, what is the reserve ratios, how much money are we allocating for grants, etc. Our job as the core team was actually to set up the initial protocol and launch it and get it up. I feel like we've done that. If not perfectly, then somewhat successfully. We have a real protocol out there that people are using that's distributing money through smart contracts. We want to enable the community to begin to make decisions around how the monetary policy of the protocol and how people see it actually working over time, if you will. This is also so that's another element. Grants we discussed. So, we know that we want the DAO members and the community members to actually lead the local and community development in key markets for GoodDollar. So this is like the existing ambassador program that Progress has set up and managed. But more than that, right? We want to enable those communities to do more. We want to enable more people around the world to start GoodDollar communities. So there's going to be, we mentioned that there's at least $120,000 worth of grant funding in this year. We want to see a big portion of that going to setting up and supporting community grants. We also want to support technical grants and development grants. So we know that there are many people, there's lots of updates every single day about people who have ideas for cool stuff to build for GoodDollar. We want to support that. We've opened up, Progress, can you drop into here the D-Work channel, please? So we've started to move and I've started to enter some of the wish list ideas of community members that I've heard over the years onto the D work. We want people to share ideas around stuff they want to get built. We want to use the grants and the funding that we have to facilitate getting that stuff built. And we want the community to decide on what's useful. Hard stop. So that's the other element. We're going to be looking for a working group, and then advocacy and community work, which is really already being led by progress, if you will, but really formalizing what is the process for opening a GoodDollar community, what does it mean to be a GoodDollar ambassador, and continuing to advance number of people that are able to work directly through the DAO, directly through the protocol to start GoodDollar communities. Next slide, please. This is actually a slide that Noak built a while ago on behalf of the company, and I think it's a great slide because what it shows is, we're not going to go through it right now, but what we show is that there's a ton of work that has to do with GoodDollar. And so what I've just focused on, or what I just introduced, is what we're focusing on now. Right? So this is what we're focusing on 2023. It's not to say that these are the only elements of what we hope to decentralize over the course of the project. We want the project over time we want the DAO and the protocol to absorb all of these different responsibilities, but we're being responsible and mindful and thoughtful about where do we start and where do we think the community is set up to succeed. And so of all of the different work, those are the initial working groups where we've spoken to the community and we believe that we're most set up as a group to succeed in bringing in more contributors and inputs. Next slide, please. What we're not decentralizing. What are we not decentralizing? Because there's a lot that we're not doing. First and foremost is, at this point, as I mentioned, Good Labs is doing the interface development and management. That includes the wallet, that includes GoodSwap, that includes the features that goes into it. At this point in time, we don't yet have a plan to decentralize those key interfaces. That's not to say it won't happen at some point in time, but it's not an area where we're focusing for the year. The second element where we're not focusing yet on decentralizing is actually like the core protocol development, right? So first of all, we're not doing a lot yet, and it's one of the areas where we want to make sure that there is real product market fit, that our contracts are secure. We see it as part of, when I say we, I mean Good Labs. We see it as actually a part of our core role as setting up a healthy protocol ecosystem, is ensuring that the protocol and its contracts work in a let's say a functional and secure way. And so this is an area that let's say we're not handing over to the community at this moment in time, even though we do want the community and the protocol working group to be really leading the monetary policy protocol. Next slide. So what does it actually mean for you? What does it mean for the community? So we mentioned that, I mentioned a few different committees. So first of all, when I introduced Angelo, there is going to be a GoodDollar and Cello Grants Committee that is going to lead it's essentially going to lead how we decide to distribute the funds that the Cello Foundation is purchasing. And so Cello will be selecting 3 community delegates, 3 members from the GoodDollar community that will sit on this committee alongside the Cello Foundation reps and 1 representative from Good Labs. And so we'll be sharing more this next week about who we're actually, Angelo is helping to lead this process, and what are going to be the responsibilities of this committee? What's the time commitment going to be? Who do we think would be an effective candidate? But it's an opportunity for you to get really more involved in leading. How do we expand on Cello, and how do we empower other builders on Cello as well? So stay tuned, there's more to come there. The other element is that we're, GoodDAO Treasury, recruiting soon, recruiting yesterday, actually. So we are really looking for community partners to begin, community members and contributors who are interested in beginning to help us establish the working group that manages the GoodDAO Treasury and formalizes it. And that working group will be really critical to us actually effectively operationalizing the other working groups, if you will. So if you're interested in crypto, if you have a finance background, if you've ever been wondering about this stuff, Again, you know where to find us. Reach out to us, express your interest. We are going to begin to try to, one, create a budget and then enable a simple but thorough application process for people who are interested in contributing as part of the initial working group for the GoodDAO Treasury. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you. I think thank you for your patience in us actually going through the really brutal work of trying to establish what is the right entity structure for the GoodDollar protocol and bearing with us. I think one of the most exciting, meaningful things through, going through this process is actually recognizing all of the different ways that people are contributing to GoodDollar above and outside of people who just work for Good Labs or people who just work for eToro, right? And this is actually what gets us, I can speak for Dorit. I think this is what actually gets us really, really excited is us being able to set up right structures and the right structures that will enable all the community members to, one, contribute in more strategic ways, and two, be compensated for it, right? So this has been the pre-work that needs to happen in order for us to be able to really set up a functional DAO that has some assets, set up a functional DAO that is able to make proposals, accept proposals, and fund people who complete those proposals. And so we're just really so excited to hopefully provide, the goal is to provide ways for you guys to contribute more and feel more ownership over GoodDollar and to do more, right? And to do more, not just because you can volunteer for it, but to do more because it's something that you're going to be able to use to build your own jobs and, get compensated for, right? So we're really, really looking forward to this next journey. We're here for questions. I've tried to be as transparent as possible, and we will continue to try to be as transparent as possible. And thank you for all your contributions and all of your future contributions. And there's some really cool job opportunities in here. So I hope you all are excited and starting to think about what you want to work on. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Anna. As you said, there's a lot of things coming up, and I hope everybody's really excited. We're almost running out of time, but I want to give the word to Progress to quickly update us about the community. So Progress, go ahead.
Thank you, Mary. This is going to really be quick. So, first off, our NFT guild is getting better and stronger. I wanted Salva to do a brief rundown of what we have on the roadmap, but I think we're going to leave that for the next call. So yeah, we've gotten our NFT guild set up, and can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So next up is the work. Like Anna mentioned earlier, we've moved to the work for the community contribution majorly. So I've shared with all the ambassadors. Everyone is expected to create the work account. And if you go there, you see different sections, including the community section where you can contribute. This is to help us harmonize our activities and just become more organized. So yeah, I've dropped the link in the chat box. So if you've not connected through the work, you should. Next up is, sorry, I can't see your screen again, Tiago. Okay, so let me see. Next up is we have the community events page. I know I had mentioned this earlier, but just to re-emphasize, for the ambassadors, if you know your community is doing any event at all, there is an events page where you have to update, I was hoping I would drop the link, but I'll drop the link after this call in the ambassadors platform again, so that we want to publicize activities. We want to show more on the contributions that you all are doing in your various countries and your various circles. So that would help to highlight these. So just do well to populate that events page, and let's see how it goes. And I think that's basically it from me today.
Thanks, Boris.
Thank you.
We are already on time, but I want to give an opportunity to Pat, Sam, Dorit, or like anyone else if there's anything they want to add.
I just want to say that we're working on the multi-chain wallet, and that will be presented that in the next community call. So please join to see how the wallet is going to work and what's new.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat.
And I'll just add that we're going to bring back monthly community updates, so stay tuned for that. That should be a blog post and a newsletter, and it will be evolving as we go.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, a lot of things coming up. Really excited for next community call to see this multi-chain wallet. So hope everybody turns in. And did anyone say anything? Hey, okay, I think that was a mistake. So thanks everybody for their time, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Oh, thank you for listening.
Bye.